Greetings and welcome back once again. YouTube, we are trying something new. YouTube. This time I'm going live off of the tube and I'm outside in nature. Now the screen look kind of close. Try back up. For those who just joined us, greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna. I pray everybody is doing well. If you're new, welcome. You don't know, like, subscribe. If you're returning, we missed you. You already know how it is. This is not your average thought processes. It takes me a little time to get to my point. Let me back up a little bit. I feel like this thing is like all up in my morning. Hold on. Hopefully that works. So I said before that I wanted to do more conversations on relationships. We, for the most part, all have had experiences in relationships. Either when we come to certain topics like this, you're either on the giving side and the receiving side, and I like to break things down so that we can kind of get a holistic view. And usually in life, where we extract the principle, they can be used in different spaces. Now, stuff like ghosting and no contact, oftentimes we think about romantic relationships. But I'm here to tell you, it goes beyond romantic relationships. Hopefully you guys can hear because some cars are passing that way. But it goes beyond romantic relationships. And I'll give you an example. So yesterday I was doing my homework. Over there on TLC for the Seeking Sister Wife conversation. Then I got distracted because if you know me, I get distracted from time to time. So I was doing a follow-up on what was happening on the 90 Day Fiancé. Follow me. I'm going somewhere with this. And so one of the guys, Tariq, had a situation with his brother where he got basically no contact. So these two, Tariq and his brother, I forget his name at this point, please forgive me. Oh man, what was his brain? I forget the brother's name. Anyway, Tariq initially went on the show. Later on, he brings his brother in and they are now getting money together. Something happens that according to him, he's not fully aware of. And his brother goes no contact on him. And the only way he was able to understand what happened was through production of the show. Now, this is his blood brother. This is not a romantic relationship. This is his blood brother. And he goes no contact on him. He doesn't explain to him what the issue is. And this goes on for some 21 months. Okay? And finally, the people on the show bring him back on to talk about why there was an issue. And he is contending that he has no idea what happened. He doesn't know what happened. He reached out to his brother and realized he was blocked on all social medias. I thought that was fascinating and something that was interesting to look at. Why? Because oftentimes when we come to these situations, we just see it from a romantic point of view. So it can happen between siblings. It can happen between family members. It can happen with a father or a mother going no contact with their own children. For whatever reason, they may give the child up. They may ghost the child. They may put the child, okay, birds, the birds are agreeing. They may put the child on other family members, and that child may not have the language to identify that they've been ghosted, because I want to get down to the core. Because, we have new terminologies, and sometimes we're like, oh, it's not new. All of this stuff has been happening, okay? We're just giving it new terminology in this day. The birds are mad excited. They're giving it new terminology in this day and time. So, at the core of it, the word is abandonment. Okay? We're using all these new terms. Before I came on, I was thinking of Mr. Telephone Man. There's something wrong with my line. What'd he say? When I dial my baby's number, I get a click every time. This is like the old school way of ghosting somebody. When you ghost as opposed to block, when you ghost them, you may be seeing their messages. You may be reading their texts. You may be getting the information coming to you, but you're not giving them anything back. Because when you look at a ghost, what do the people say? They can see you, but you can't necessarily see them, right? So somebody's still lingering. They're hanging around, Some people think ghosts mean disappear. Does it really? They're hanging around. You can feel their energy, but they're not necessarily responding to you. That's just my thoughts, right? With the spiritual realm. So essentially, Mr. Telephone Man, he's singing about being ghosted because they didn't have text back then. So when he dials the number, she may pick up, but she hangs up, right? He can be talking, but she's not responding. Hello, is it me? So essentially, when I'm looking at the situation and really just thinking about it, to me, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments below, or if you have a different spin on it. It's abandonment. We're talking about abandonment and how people perceive the abandonment, who's giving and who's receiving, what is to be expected of people. Like, for instance, if it's in a romantic setting where people have been vulnerable, there's an expectation that you would express whatever your thoughts is. How many people have been ghosted? I've been ghosted. Can y'all believe it? That was before I knew that was the term. That was a long time ago. But it does kind of leave you in a fog. Like, what in the world? What, the person was just, writing, or the person was back. They could have did it back when there was letters. The person was just answering their phone, and now the person is not answering their phone. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, months go by, years go by, and they weren't on their side. Either they weren't mature enough, or they didn't have the communication skills enough, or they weren't prepared to say, hey, whatever you're asking of me is too much, or that this is no longer, or that I was using you. Sometimes people get ghosted because in romantic spaces or friendship spaces, because you're being used. And now that the person no longer feels as though they can get what they're looking for, they already got it, then they disappear. And essentially what the person is feeling is either rejection and or abandoned, because there's no closure in that space. The same thing it is with the no contact and blocking. Again, I also am on the giving and receiving end of these two things before I knew what to call it, right? When we're younger, we may think, oh, that's cool and that's cute and it's funny, but it's people's feelings and emotions that you are either trying to protect yourself against or make sure that you are in control. In the book Solonomics, I borrow from a concept that talks about control dramas and the way in which we control situations based on our approach. So if someone chooses to control the situation by cutting off the communication, that means they have control. Okay, don't pay your cable bill. Don't pay your internet. Who has the control? If you want to get on this internet, you better come back and pay your cable bill, right? You better pay your phone bill. So at that point, the internet company or the light company has control over you. So they cut you off in order for you to come back on their terms. When we cut people off in certain spaces, and again, y'all comment, let me know your comments. Let me put it on so I can see it, and then I'll come to the box in a bit. Shout out to everybody who just joined us. When we cut people off, we maintain the control. And we are saying, I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent at this point. I'm just looking at the principle. We are saying oftentimes that I'm going to interact with you on my terms. And the person who has been cut off without any warning or any discussion may feel vulnerable, they may feel rejected, and they may feel destabilized because of the fact that they are scrambling to find out what happened. There's all of these questions, right? When we deal with companies, they tell you, hey man, I called you, you didn't do what I said, you ain't pay your bills, so I'm about to cut you off. But that's in business. We the people don't always operate like that. And this is what creates this thirst, this need for being hypersensitive and hypervigilant with our emotions, because we may go from that space and then we may do and go into another space, and now we are projecting onto that person the hurt and the things that the other person did to us. And we are now holding the new person to the standard that we should have held, not all the time, but oftentimes, we should have held the other person. So you may become a bit more clingy, or you may become a bit more jealous, or you may become whatever it is that you become to try to guard yourself from the hurt. Abandonment and rejection equals hurt. It's the same way if you burnt your hand on the stove, you're going to be a little bit more cautious the next time when you go pull your cookies out. You're not just going to be going buck wild. It's the same way that we become more cautious and mindful of the hurt that we received the last time. So at the core of it, in my estimation, there is abandonment. It creates a level of abandonment issues, and it creates emotional pain. Now, there's so many other variables that if you have a specific situation and you say, is the person ghosted you or whatever, because the person may say, hey, they may be speaking to you. This is another thing that happens, that we seal our heart and our ears off to brace for the impact. If the person is expressing to you, okay, this is not working, and the person's expressing to you, and every day you're calling them, hey, what are you doing? You want to go catch some coffee? You know what I'm saying? And the person is expressing to you that this is going in a bad direction, and you're not hearing them because you're blocked off. Then when they disengage, you may say, they ghosted me. They may have had to disengage because their presence was leading you on, or their presence was making you think that it was something that it wasn't. Are y'all feeling what I'm saying? So what did I put up here? Ghosting. Oh, no contact. So I was talking about no contact, ghosting, which is, and I saw another thing that came up, which is breadcrumbing, which is very interesting. Y'all know I like looking at these new concepts, where somebody is just, stringing you along and giving you just enough attention to kind of keep you on the rope, keep you on the string. We're talking, all of this is, sometimes it's conscious and sometimes you're not conscious of what it is you're doing. But make no mistake about it, it's all about power plays, right? When we're playing games to maintain the levers of power, people are going to go through these different channels. Now, why did Amuna? I was really young. And at that time, for me, ghosting somebody, which was hard because back then we ain't have no texting and all that stuff. Like, you have to kind of ghost them in person, especially when you're in school, you know what I'm saying? When you're in high school and those things, it's like you can't really ghost a person. You could kind of avoid them, but you see them still. So it was a little bit not as easy. I would say technology makes it very easy to be disingenuous with people. Technology makes it very easy. Even YouTube streets and all these places, it makes it easy to treat people as though they're not people, because their names on the screen and their avatars and their text messages, they're not you having to see them at the lunch table or at the water cooler or at your congregation or wherever it is. You don't have to necessarily do those things. So these things become more prevalent. Like, people are reading their ghosted texts. You know what I mean? And it's easier to just be like, oh, I'm just going to block and delete this person. Now, let me come from Solonomics and then wrap it up, because I don't even know how the sound quality is on this right now. At the end of the day, y'all know I like to go all the way to the end of the day. And I'm experiencing this. I have experienced this. So I'm speaking from this space. Whether we are conscious or not of our behavior, life is cyclical. So when we think that we're doing something to someone else, we're actually doing it to ourselves. And it's only a matter of time before the energy that we put out into the universe returns to us. And more often than not, because if we were on the giving end, we were the doers, we divorced ourselves from the effects because we didn't feel them. We don't remember, or we minimalize it, or we discount what the person was feeling. And that energy that we passed off to somebody else and they embodied, it may come out of them in tears. It may come out of them in pain. However it comes out of them, right? And it has our address on there, our spiritual, emotional tag, our signature. We were the progenitors of this. It is going to come back around, because that's how the universe moves. It's not anything spooky, and people may call it karma. They could call it whatever nice name they would like to call it. But as sure as the sun, in our estimation, rises and sets, as sure as all of the things that the Creator put in place goes around and comes around, so does this energy. It's like throwing a bottle. When I was younger, I had a lot of businesses. So one of my first business babies was Bottle Moments. I don't know why I was obsessed with messages in a bottle. I don't know why, right? So I did this whole thing for a while. I was in my 20s, and just this concept and just researching how people would put messages in the bottle and throw it into the sea. And how many years? It don't matter if it took 15 years or 20 years, depending on where. Eventually, as the sea goes and comes and goes and comes, it's going to eventually get to land. And when it does, whatever you initially put in that bottle will be returned. Yeah? So if people are kind of like containers who contain and retain information and energy, and whatever we're pouring into others through our actions and our words, like I said, when it comes back, we pretend as though, oh, why? It may not come back when you're ready for it. It may not come, but you may have even forgot that you did it. Right? You don't remember nothing about that. Like, why am I going through this? You finally felt who you thought was your love. You finally found that person you've been praying for and put it on your vision board all these years. You finally found, the perfect woman who was going to build your house. You finally found everything you was looking for, and then right before your eyes, it begins to fall apart. Right before your eyes, they begin to behave in a way that you think is foreign, unfair, unjust, and just downright wicked. And you're like, why? You're there crying to the Creator. Why is this happening to me? What have I ever done in my life, right? We go through the, oh, woe is me, poor me. Let me get some water. Poor me vibration. All the while, we totally forgot what we were doing, how we were behaving, and how when you were hanging with your friends, you thought it was cool, and how you got cool points and high fives, and how you was the baddest bee. We forgot about all of that when we ready to settle down, when the brothers finished sowing his wild oats, when all of this stuff, and he's a new person now. And then right when you become that new, you know what I mean? You're that new person, blah, here it comes. Everything you dumped into the universe is right back on your doorstep. I know, this is not what y'all thought it was going to be. Welcome to those who just joined us. Leave your comments in the box. I'm going to wrap it up. But it's not what you thought it was going to be, huh? I know, one of those that's going to soothe our ego and stroke our thoughts. And no. You ghost people. If you go no contact and the person is abusive, that's one thing. If they're threatening you, I understand. That's what a restraining order is for, giving distance from somebody who may be psycho or crazy. But if it's just in a regular relationship that you can't be bothered, you take some time and then you express to the person. If you don't do it well over video, or you don't do it well in person, write them a note. This is why people used to write letters. Communicate in such a way that the person can have some closure. I'll come back and talk about closure later. But again, part of the reason why we're so messed up is because I realize as humanity, we have a problem disconnecting. For instance, when a baby is born, everybody's rejoicing, for the most part. Hey, Deborah, what's up? Everybody's rejoicing. But when somebody passes or transitions back into the spiritual realm, for some reason, we have a difficult time with understanding the disconnect. So even if we look at, you got a new job, you're excited, you know what I mean? But when we leave a place, when something is taken away from us, we adjust or adapt a bit slower to the thought of not having what we once had, right? And so I understand that it's more difficult to pull away than it is to connect. That's why people fall in love, and it's all glamorous, and it's stars, and it's pixie dust, and it's flowers, and it's everything, and you're feeling good. But then when it starts to go wrong, awry, and you need to fix it, it becomes a bit more laborious, a bit more tedious, because why? Now you have to put in the work, right? You have to put in the work to do the correction, and we're not always willing to do that. So that's understandable, and no wonder when you search YouTube, like millions and millions of people looking for, what does this mean? What does this mean when this person has done this? The thought is that this doesn't all just happen when people are dating. It can happen in, like I said earlier, for those who just joined us, it can happen in your familiar relationships, your family. You can get ghosted by a parent. A child can ghost a parent, where I don't want to talk to that parent anymore. They know what they did. No contact. You have people who have toxic parents, and the parent may not know what they have done, but for that child's mental space and well-being, or that adult child is now, you know what, I'm going to separate from this person, no matter who they may be. Ghosting, I'm just wrapping up, y'all, so if y'all see me thinking. Ghosting, no contact, and the consequences essentially of what comes back to us when we don't close a situation correctly or to the best of our ability so that we can remain blameless. Like I said, I've not closed situations correctly, although sometimes I used to be a little tiny, a little a little tiny bit savage. I wouldn't say savage, just too blunt. I had to learn. My problem back then, it was that I was too blunt. Like I was too direct. Like I don't like you anymore. And I look back and I'm like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was nice and good and all, but yeah, I don't like you anymore. And then, you know, I just thought that was okay. You know, you see the person like crumpling up and you're like, what happened? I told you, you know. But we all have things to work on. I know that was mine. I had to learn how to speak the truth in love, you understand? But definitely, if there's someone in your life who you are withholding closure from because you're mad or you're angry or you're being vindictive or, you know, whatever it is, and you can release yourself and that person in a healthy way from whatever binds you, and do that. Because you're going to free up that energy on your behalf, and they can free up that energy on their behalf to go ahead and invest in healthier relationships and spaces, as opposed to carrying all of this emotional baggage from place to place. And if the person looks like the person you knew, if they sound like the person, if they laugh, oh man, you remind me of such and such, that's exactly how they used to laugh too, and I remember that time they, you know what I mean? Because that's how we get triggered. We get triggered by sounds and looks and voice intonation and laughter. We get triggered by all of that stuff, and then next thing you know, we dumping on the new person what the old person used to do. Makes me wonder, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I hope you guys makes me wonder how much lacking we are in understandable communication in order to be understood. Can't we read nonverbal signals, or is it frightening? I'm sorry, hold on, to read and acknowledge them. Understandable communication in order to be understood. I mean, nonverbal signals is, that's a question. People will say, like, I gave you a hint, but yo, we adults with words. You know, we adults and we have vocabulary, we have words, and many people may do it in a nonverbal way. This is where we grow our emotional intelligence to be able to express what it is we need, what it is that is no longer. And I'm also coming into this space where, you know, you can respectfully say, hey, no thank you, you know, that's not going to be a good fit for me. Because we all have issues, whatever your personal issue may be, some being over expressive, some being under expressive, some being too blunt, whatever it is that may be holding you back from honestly communicating your needs or your thoughts with the next person. Like, so that's for the individual to find out what's going on there, because we can misread nonverbal cues, right? If you teach your child that this means I'm hungry, right, and then everybody else thinks rubbing your belly means I'm hungry, your child could be out there doing this all day. We're gonna be like, what's going on? You got a headache? What happened? You want to go see it? You won't know what the child is saying, because each person's cue may be different, but based on their environment. You know what I mean? Some people may laugh when they're nervous, and other people may cry. I don't know. So that's my thoughts. Thank everybody for tuning in. I just wanted to take a little break from some of the other topics, and then we carry the rubbish bags from previous traumas with us and dump it on the next person's head. Yep, we pretty much do. Yeah, I'm here to attest. That's correct. That's exactly what we do. And then we begin, and then it's a cycle, it's a loop of self-sabotaging, right? Because I know you're going to do this because such and such did this, right? And they went for a carton of cigarettes and never came back, so you're going to leave. You know, we start doing that until we stop. It is debilitating. It is crippling. Until there's hope, y'all. There is hope. Okay? Sure as the green grass grows, there is hope. And the hope is just stop. Stop. Take a minute. Break the cycle. Back up from the picture. Stop doing the woe is me, or stop doing the it's not me. Whatever it is, whatever coping we have, whatever way that we deal with it, it's always somebody else's fault, or it's always our fault, or whatever it is that we use to cope. We have to acknowledge that and say, okay, this is what I've been doing, and this ain't too right? And then go back and hear the complaints, or hear the issues or the concerns with the person that we may have this issue with. And sometimes it's them, and sometimes it's you. Yeah, right? So, it really depends. Each situation is different. It's not a one size fits all. Yep, the birds were just flying over my head. The birds were just, all right, everybody. Hopefully, you guys could have heard me because, the cars are like, but I wanted to come outside. I've been doing Car Chronicles, and I wanted some fresh air, so you don't know how it is already. All right, everybody, tune in next time. If you guys have not seen this, what is the name of the show? What's the name of the show? Seeking Sister Wife. Check it out, because I'm going to come and do the review now. This is the third. I watched the third episode yesterday. Boy, do I have some things to say. Father, help us all. Okay. All right, everybody. Bless.